Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today we're going to be giving some updates on a very challenging and very messy situation involving many prominent streamers in that scene. We're going to be focusing on some updates regarding Rich Campbell, who's been battling allegations made against him for about 3 years now. And at the time of those allegations back in 2022, he was a very prominent figure in the streaming scene. He was a co-founder of the streaming group OTK. He was also someone who was a prominent broadcaster in the esports scene. He was also a very successful streamer, but all of that quickly faded away and were pretty much all taken away after this Azalea Lexi person made allegations in a now deleted twit longer that she posted in 2022. And in that, she alleged that after a time of having consensual relationships, there was a particular time at a movie theater where he forced himself upon her. That's what she was alleging, and basically people decided right on the spot that he was guilty, and for 3 years they believed that there's absolutely no other things to say about this, but of course there is. And a lot of people are scratching their heads today after the most recent post made by his accuser. So I'm going to do something different. We're going to get into the chronological order of events in just a second, but I want to begin first with the most recent post. This was made yesterday by the accuser saying, "I have decided to dismiss my lawsuit against Rich Campbell." And then we have this part down here. "And I wish him well in his future endeavors." So after 3 years of countless people believing this guy is guilty, the lawsuit has been dismissed. And also she's wishing him well in his future endeavors, which is an odd thing to see. A lot of people are scratching their heads over that because if he was what she was saying he would be a serial abuser who not only abused her, but also other women as well. But now she's wishing him well in the future. But let's get back to the beginning. So like I said, in 2022, Azalea makes these claims that he forced himself upon her back at a movie theater when they were hanging out, and she did not consent to it, and people immediately wrote him off. Like, it was over almost immediately. People saw the allegations. There was no charges made yet. There was no lawsuits announced. They just saw that and said, yes, he's guilty, and he pretty much lost everything. We'll talk about it in just a second, but you can see these headlines. There was tons of headlines like this back in 2022 where he went silent following the allegations. Where is he? Well, they're basing it on his final social media post back in 2022, responding to the statements, and he says that he wants to share his side of the story, but he needs some time to collect his thoughts. And as I said, this was his final post on social media, and people are construing his silence as guilt, which is a dangerous thing to do. I think people, unfortunately, are very used to the crap-slinging drama on places like Twitch where people just say stuff willy-nilly. They're not taking it seriously. It's like high school drama to them. This is not the case. This is really serious allegations that could have resulted in criminal charges or, at the very least, a lawsuit. So I think his silence is probably something any competent attorney in this situation would recommend to their client. But anyways, you can see he also mentioned that OTK requested that he resigns from his co-founding position, and he agreed. And after that, he lost like everything, every partnership, every brand. His former friends and former co-workers and partners came out, publicly disavowed him. He pretty much lost everything overnight, which, by the way, if he is guilty of these things, deserved. But at this point, like I said, it was just allegations, and things would progress. Because a few days after that, after he made his one and only public response to this, she came out and claimed there were more victims and that he had sexually assaulted even more people. And they were trying to base that off of two unidentified individuals who apparently made twit longers similar to what Azalea made and almost instantaneously retracted their statements and then nuked their social media platforms. So think of that what you will. But again, she's adding a lot more serious accusations to what was already one very serious accusation, and she would double down on this on Twitter back in 2022, saying, "Congratulations, you have effectively scared all the other victims that exist from publicly coming forward due to how you continually harassed me for a week while the perpetrator has been silent, which they're referring to what they believe is harassment of women online who make these accusations, and that has silenced all of these potential people from coming out and reporting what they alleged happened to them. And she goes on to basically say this is why women don't speak up, and this is why assaulters never see punishment, and that you're the problem. Kind of speaking generally to, I guess, Rich and all of the people online who were saying anything negative about these accusers. But there was one person trying to back her up, and it's, of course, Casey Tron, because, of course, she'd be involved. If you forget, this is one of the 3 recipients of Ethan Klein's copyright infringement lawsuits, and back then, she pretty much ran up with what Azalea was claiming, saying there was some people who try to come forward, they're instantly silenced. Casey Tron doesn't provide their names or any evidence or anything to really back up any of this stuff, but they're trying to paint him as a serial abuser, but nothing ever came of any additional people. There was never any additional people to step forward or to file anything. So now we see another double down in 2023 where Azalea, and let me make this clear, these comments were not from Rich. This was from the streamer Destiny, who was blaming her for what potentially happened to herself. And she said in response that Destiny's an idiot and that she was literally assaulted by Rich Campbell. So she's still doubling down on this in 2023. And really the next big update was at the 2-year mark in late 2023, where she filed a lawsuit against Rich Campbell claiming he sexually assaulted her and that she wants the suit to be handled in front of a jury. And then a few days later, he responded with a countersuit that included defamation, several contract violations, and emotional distress. And his lawsuit was asking for $3.6 million in damages. And honestly, he was at the peak of his career. He was making a lot of money, so that number isn't exactly that crazy. And like I said, people wrote him off. He instantly lost in the court of public opinion. Everyone was deciding he's guilty, including his friends and former partners he streamed with. They just said, yep, we're cutting this guy off. He's done. And of course, I think this is important for especially the non-Americans to understand when it comes to the legal system in the United States. If he was facing criminal charges, the legal standard is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard to prove someone guilty in courts. But what she did was file a lawsuit. There was no legal criminal charges made against him. She just filed a lawsuit claiming sexual assaults. And the standard for that is preponderance of evidence. Meaning, if you're more sure than you are not that the person is guilty, that person will be found guilty. So if you're 51% sure that the defendant is guilty, the jury has to find him guilty. So it's a very low standard, and something that's probably pretty difficult, especially even if you're someone who has a good case. I mean, who knows? It's a 50-50 shot of whether or not people are going to find for your side. But really, there wasn't much after that. We would see almost a year and a half go by. And eventually, we had some content creators, including people like Tectone, who apparently know him in real life. I mean, I think they were in OTK together for a while. So they come out and claim that the lawsuits were wrapping up and that basically Rich was pretty much winning on every front. And that was only 2 months ago. And of course, we reach where we started with the most recent post, where Azalea says, I have decided to dismiss my lawsuit against Rich Campbell. No payment was offered by either of us to the other. I want to thank everyone for their support over this difficult period, and I wish him well in his future endeavors. And you see the replies are locked, but plenty of people are quoting this. You can see the amount of bookmarks. This is the first real update in like 3 years, and it is dismissing the lawsuit. Now, of course, people don't just dismiss lawsuits because they were lying. Some people do think that what happened to them was real, but they don't want to keep going through the process. But we're 3 years into this. And a lot of people, based just on the allegations, found Rich guilty. And then when the lawsuit was filed, it just like doubled down in their minds. But she doesn't clearly feel that she can win this, or it's not going to be worth the effort, so she's dismissing it. And the thing that people are really looking at and are confused about is this end right here. And I wish him well in his future endeavors. I've seen some people try to twist it like, maybe this is like a religious thing, which I don't know. Looking through her account, I don't think that's the kind of person we're dealing with here. But this struck people as odd. Because again, like I said earlier, if he was guilty of what she has been claiming for multiple years about him, he would be a serial rapist. I don't think she'd be wishing him well in future endeavors if she still believed in her heart that he was guilty. So this is something that a lot of people have been talking about, but I guess the sad thing is, this is getting a fraction of the attention that the allegations got. Because every journalist and every content creator was talking about it and writing him off as guilty. But then we have this, that's painting a different picture, and all those same people so far are silent. And it's not sitting right with people. The people who are seeing this, you can see some of the quotes, they're very confused. Women who make false R-word allegations deserve jail time. Regret of sex is not R-word. Ladies, we need to do better. You may have dropped your lawsuit, but there's maybe one coming in your future. Slander and defamation by publicly proclaiming he's a rapist and then trying to skulk away after dropping the suit. Stay classy. I wish him well. Yeah, and also people pointing out you still have posts up claiming he assaulted you. And also, we still have this counterclaim in her statement here. She doesn't say anything about him dropping his countersuit, which again, 3.6 million clams, that's a lot of money. And there's still proof out there of her, according to Rich, defaming her. But here's a post actually allowing comments, so we can see some direct replies to Yeet's screenshot of what she said. She ruined his life, dragging him for 3 years with false allegations, and she just says, oopsie. She should be tried and jailed for false allegations. Tectone saying this is way too common. Ruins his life, takes backsies. Wish him the best in his future endeavors. There needs to be reverse legal repercussions. The dude lost his career in days, while at the height of his success, probably causing millions of dollars in damages. Insane that people just let this happen time and time again. And yeah, I'm not sitting here saying I am the purveyor of truth in this matter. There's so much we don't know. There's so many things that need to be answered. But I do hope, as Tectone was claiming, that Rich comes back to give some statements now that this seems like it's wrapping up. Because there's a lot of things that don't really add up here. There's a lot of people who wrote off Rich as a complete liar and that he was guilty beyond any sort of doubt. And some of these people are still around to this day, streaming and doing things. And yeah, I wonder how they respond to this. I don't know. Like I said, the dismissal and all these things isn't a complete purveyor of truth where it's like, oh, because she dismissed it, he's clearly not guilty of anything ever. No, because people drop lawsuits for all sorts of reasons, but after dragging it out for years and doubling and tripling down and even accusing him of assaulting other women and also, just clearly making her story, what the narrative she's pushing, then to just turn around and drop it all and then wish him the best of luck in life, you're losing people. I think people are rightfully confused, and that's the last thing she said about this. And again, I wonder if she's going to say more on this because, yeah, like I said, challenging situation, and it's really just a mess. There's no other way to describe this as other than a mess. And a lot of people are drawing the conclusion of she might have just ruined this guy's life over a case she just dismissed and then wished him good luck in the aftermath of. But anyways, that is it for now. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.